Let's add custom crops to Minecraft. If you want to go deeper, the 26.x modding courses are linked down below. 30 plus hours covering complex block entities with fluid and energy handling, custom mobs, custom networking, and even custom biomes and dimensions. Everything you need for 26.x all in one place, linked down below in the description. Alright, my friends, back to once more, and in this tutorial we'll be adding custom crops over here to Minecraft, and this time around, of course, it's going to be the onion, and that's going to be a crop that we can not only plant but also harvest. For this, there are a couple of things to note. Mainly, there's some interesting data gen things that are going to come up in a second, and also for the custom crop block, we will need a custom class. Now, this is not, I mean, it is always strictly necessary, although you can sort of fudge it a little bit, although I highly recommend you don't. What I do recommend is you go to the crop block class. So just press shift twice, put in crop block, include non-project items, and then we can take a look at the crop block class over here, which is the normal one for wheat. It does have a lot of things, but we really only need a couple of them. Also recommended you can take a look at the hierarchy where we, for example, have the beetroot, the carrot, the potato, and even the torch flower crop over here. Idea is that the age over here changes, so they have different max ages. Our max age is going to be 3, so we are going to be having the same as the beetroot. In theory, we could then make it so that you just extend from the beetroot class, and honestly, there's no reason why we wouldn't do that, so let's just take a look. So, like I said, in our case, because I know that we're going to have the same max age, we can just take the beetroot over here. You would usually just take the crop block though. With that being said, let's go into the block custom package and make a new crop block class. This is the onion crop block over here. There we go. This will extend, like I said, from the beetroot block class in this case. And then we can create constructor matching super. And then from here we go. What do we want? Well, we still want to, specify the max age as well as the age. So let's do that. So there's a public static final integer called max_age, which is equal to 3. It actually suggests to us the integer property over here, so we can get that as well. That is the age 3. This is exactly right. If we control left click on this, you can see this makes a new integer property called age from 0 to 3, which is exactly what we want for our onion crop block. Now, a custom crop block needs a couple of different methods overwritten basically all the time, every time. That is the get base seed ID method, the get age property method, this one right here, then the get max age method over here, and then finally we also want the create block state definition method. So those 4 methods always have to be overridden. We're going to start at the bottom over here, where of course in the builder we're simply going to add the age property that we're adding right here. Should be more or less self-explanatory. The max age is going to return max age, crazily enough. The age property is going to return the age property, and the get base seed ID is going to return a deliberate error, as we first have to register our custom seeds item in order to return something there. But with the exception of this, the crop block class is done. Because we are using the beetroot block, we don't actually need to specify any custom shape over here, because the shape is already done sort of automatically for us. The shape, obviously, as we've seen in a previous tutorial, is the hover shape when you hover over the particular block. In this case, obviously, depending on the age property of your crop, you want it to also grow. That is why we have the different shapes over here, but we don't need that because we're getting them from the beetroot. So it is time to register everything. And to register the crop block class, what we want to do is actually not use the register block method, crazily enough. What we actually want to do is we're going to do the following. We're going to make a public static final deferred block of type block over here. This is going to be our onion_crop equal to the blocks deferred register dot register block. And then this is the onion_crop over here for the name. And then just a properties function, so the properties over here, and this is not a new crop block, but rather a new onion crop block with the following properties. Very important. We want to have a random ticks, we want to have an insta break, we want to have no collision, and a push reaction of destroy is exactly right. So that is the onion crop over here created, which is pretty freaking neat. And the reason why we're using the blocks register block over here is because we don't want a block item immediately registered with this. The reason for it is because, well, we have to make this sort of manually in the mod items, because the block item that is associated with a crop block is actually the seeds. So we're just gonna duplicate this over here. This is gonna be the onion underscore seeds. And of course, changing the name, onion underscore seeds, which has actually no properties, but it does have a different class, and that is the block item class, with its first parameter being the block that we are, well, that we want to place down. So this is going to be the modblocks.onioncrop.get in this case, and there we have it. That is going to be the onion seeds also created. Let's add this to the creative mode tab, and then we go through all of the crazy stuff that we want to do. You, of course, only need to add the onion seeds. There's no reason to add the block over here, because the crop itself, I mean, that's the idea, right? The crop itself, the block for it is going to be the seeds. All right, now we're starting off with the mod block loot table provider. This is going to be the exact same thing in 26.1 and 26.2. It's going to look exactly the same, and it looks a little bit crazy, but let's think about how a crop block is going to drop something. Well, obviously, it's going to be an add call over here for our onion crop.get, and then we want to call the create crop drops method, where first of all, we're passing in the crop block.get again, then the item that it drops, like the actual sort of valuable item, in this case, onion.get, then the seeds, so mod items.onionseeds.get. And then the last parameter here is going to look quite crazy, but we're going to go through this. This is a loot item block state property condition that has block state property, passing in once again the mod blocks.onioncrop, that is exactly right, onioncrop.get. Then after the second closing parenthesis, we call the set properties method with a state properties predicate.builder using the builder class properties has property, and then passing in the onion crop block.age and then a value of 3. What the frick is this the craziness? Very straightforward, actually. What we're doing here is saying, listen, the onion crop has a particular block state property, and if the onion crop block age has a property of 3, then you can actually drop the onion, and if it is not 3, then you cannot drop the onion. I highly recommend you take a look at the create crop drops method right here, where you can see this again, and you can also take a look at this is done with wheat and beetroot over here, as you can see. But for example, you could also take a look at the carrot, I believe, created with the beetroot right here, and then with wheat. And then for the carrot, interestingly enough, we actually have a slightly different one where there is apparently also a couple of bonus ones over here. So it's a little bit changed. Not 100% sure, but you can always take a look at the vanilla way of how it's done and then change it accordingly. Generally speaking, though, this is the way that it should be set up. Right, and now the very important one, and that is the tag. So you have to add your tag, like the custom crop, to a tag, which is the block tags.crops over here. We're going to add modblocks.getRK, modblocks.onioncrop.get. Of course, if you're in 26.1, instead of doing the getRK, you just give it the modblocks.onioncrop. Really shouldn't be anything crazy over here. This is like super simple. If you are on 26.1, the rest you can follow to a T in theory, and that is basically the whole idea. And the final step is the block model over here, which is also luckily super simple. Block models.create crop block over here, modblocks.onioncrop.get, passing in the onion crop block.age, and then 0, 1, 2, and 3. These are the different stages. You have to pass them all in individually. But listen, okay, this is not that bad of a deal, because my gosh, it was way worse in previous versions, where we had to do all sorts of crazy things and had like a helper method. So now having access to the create crop block method right here is super simple. So there we go. Basically, you always start at 0 and you just go up to your max age, and that's basically all that there is to it. With that done, we can go on to the translation, and that is going to have 2 parts of it. We're going to have the onion seeds, but we will also get ourselves the crop itself as well. The reason I always add this as well is for things like Wayla. What am I looking at? So if you hover over the crop block, that it also gets a proper name. And it really doesn't cost you anything. that much, really. Then when we get to the textures, of course, those are all available to you down below. Note that the way that they are written is usually the way that they are, always written. So there's going to be onion_crop, which is the name given to the onion crop right here, _stage 0. So that is the, first stage, and then _stage 1, _stage 2, _stage 3. That is the way that they have to be named in your block folder, of course. And in the item folder for the textures, we get the onion seeds, all of this, and including, of course, all of the code and everything is going to be available to you down below for download, so no worries there at all. Now, I think that is actually everything that we need, crazily enough. It doesn't feel like it, but let's just see. Let's just run the data over here, and once everything has been generated, the JSON files, well then, there we go. Okay, there was one more thing, and that is, of course, the get base seed ID. This is why I put a deliberate error in here, because it is very easy to forget something, and if we would have just returned the super, then it would have been really confusing, really weird, and that is why we can now just add the seeds right here, bada bing, bada boom, and just like that, we've done it, and then we can run the data, which is going to generate us, I don't even know, like 7 JSON files or something like that, and then from there, well, 40, haha, well, so much for 7. I'm pretty sure there might be like other ones in here as well. Regardless though, let's jump into the game, man. See if it works. Alright, friends, I'm back in Minecraft. As you can see, the onion seeds have been successfully added to the game, and I can set them down right here. Absolutely freaking fantastic. Now they do actually, wait, if you listen to this, they actually are, they have a sound of stone. We can fix that very easily in just a second to give it a different sound, of course, but if we grow them, you can see boop, 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 and then at some point they are fully grown right here. There we freaking go. And if we then mine them, you can see bada bing, bada boom, we got ourselves an onion. Absolutely fantastic, and that is custom crops added to Minecraft. To fix the sound, of course, super freaking simple. In the properties over here, we simply want to give it the sound type of crop here, and then all of a sudden it's going to sound easy enough. And that's going to be it for this tutorial right here. Thank you for all the members and patrons. Don't forget that if you join as a Stonebricks member on YouTube, you can get up to 14 days of early access, including this video right here where we'll add custom compostables. Hope to see you there. So, yeah.